We're being recorded.
We're being recorded and we're letting people in. Takes a minute or two for people to get in. Hello, hello, everybody.
Howdy,
Greg
howdy.
Peterson to you from the Urban Farm Podcast, and I'm here with Jesse. Hello, Jesse.
Hello, Greg. Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse from the Permaculture Institute of North America, or PINA, because that's a bit of a mouthful.
Nice. And our speaker tonight, we'll get a formal introduction here in a minute. It's Matthew. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
You have a friend?
Welcome everybody. Um, where is he? Trees up.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Trizo.
How are you?
Is this thing on?
We
I
see you.
think
We
so.
hear
Here,
you.
knock, 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 knock. Here you
Is that
go.
thing on? Is this live? Yeah, I
It
told
is
you.
live.
I'm doing a thing. Hello?
Hey.
So, y'all are out there. Let me know in the chat. Let us know in the chat where you're listening in from.
Or if you can identify the type of mushroom that Trizo has in his hands.
Right,
Wow, you got the eye movement. Oh, I never noticed that before. Very Jim Henson.
right.
Your trees don't have eyes?
Not usually.
Cool, cool. Let us know in the chat where you're listening in from. Oh my gosh. Trezo just ate a mushroom.
I'm
All
sitting
right.
here in Michigan, Ypsilanti, Michigan. Uh-oh, now your eyes are bulging. I think the mushrooms kicked in.
Oh, Jeannie, hello.
Hey, Jeannie.
She's in surprise. Hey, Jeannie, we have a permaculture design course in Phoenix starting in about 2 weeks if you're interested.
Oh, nice. And
Yeah.
Jeannie, also, you got the right mushroom, Amanita muscaria. That's right.
Oh, is that what that was? I didn't get that.
I believe so.
Orange County, California, Phoenix from Orange County, California, and um, Fanghorn, New Mexico. We've
Hi,
got
Bevan.
Bevan.
Oh, Matthew's back.
I don't know what happened. This guy thinks this guy
Oh, cool.
got the
Argonaut.
showboat.
Yeah, he likes the attention.
Yeah, what can I do? I
Nice.
let him have it. He's over 1,000 years old.
Only? That's pretty
Yeah,
old for a
I mean, I
mushroom.
don't know. You lose track after a while.
Yeah, give or
Yeah,
take 100 years.
Yeah.
there you go. All right. Tonight, we're going to jump in. Tonight, we are here to talk about introduction to permaculture. And this is something we do 11 times a year in conjunction with Urban Farm Podcast and Permaculture Institute of North America. And we bring in a guest teacher every month except January. And they give their rendition of what an introduction to permaculture looks like. And before we came on the air, we were kind of chatting about how nicely everybody has their own definition of permaculture, but also everybody's getting a different introduction to permaculture as well, which is quite nice, right, Jesse?
Yep, totally. It's one of the reasons I love doing this with y'all. It's always interesting. I've been steeped in permaculture for 15 years and you, Greg, much longer, but it's still interesting to hear different versions of like the introduction to permaculture.
Right. Well, here's one for you. This blew me away. So I actually did my permaculture design course in 1991.
Yeah.
So that's what, 35 years ago? And I'm interviewing on the Urban Farm podcast. I'm interviewing Beatrice Nathan. She's a permaculture designer here in Asheville, North Carolina. And she started a child care permaculture based co-op.
Oh,
And so I'm interviewing her. She's sharing about the co-op, and she starts talking about zones. Now, I've always overlaid zones as physical spaces in my yard. She laid it out as a time management tool.
Oh, cool.
She took zones and put her different things that she had to manage time-wise into zones.
Mm,
And it was like, hold on, it was first of all, I was like, whoa. And secondly, it was, of course.
yes. Yeah.
What can we do if we break out of what we already think we already know in permaculture?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was cool.
That is cool. And Matthew might touch more on zones if people are like, what the heck are zones? But we'll see. And if not, we'll do it at some point later in
Yeah,
the presentation.
exactly. All right, you want to introduce PINA there?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you guys again for being here. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. We already had a puppet, so it's going to be good. It's bound to be good if we've already started with a puppet. If you've not heard of PINA, it's the Permaculture Institute of North America, and we are sort of servicing and trying to represent permaculture and uplift permaculture throughout the North American continent and really beyond. The value of institutes in the permaculture sort of like ecosystem, I think, is like really trying to like make sure that like things that are important, like the permaculture design course, that sort of like curriculum is like upheld and not diluted and not turned into somebody's bozo idea of what permaculture is because they thought of it that way. So to sort of have some standards, but also to help people who go from permaculture like brand newbie and like they get enthused and totally turned on by permaculture, which happens to probably like 80% of people who take a PDC. I don't know.
Right?
Um, but we can help those people move into just like, okay, I'm really interested in permaculture to like, now how do I make this part of my livelihood or how do I get out of my like job that I don't really love and like make this my life? And so that's the role PINA is sort of playing in the ecosystem. And yeah, it's a great job and it's a great cause. If you're interested in joining, the website couldn't be easier to remember. It's just PINA, PINA.in. So get into PINA.in, check it out, poke around. There's free resources. And if you're interested, you can be a member at $20 a year. So we try to make it as cheap as possible just to support the mission and the cause. And at the very least, get on the newsletter, which we put out once a month. It's a great digest of just kind of like what's going on permaculturally across North America.
And
So
we're
yeah, join us.
and we're doing a lot of cool things. I included myself in that we for PINA. We're doing a lot of cool things like a monthly introduction to permaculture.
Yeah.
What else? Does PINA do?
Summits, as many of you have come to summits, maybe. I think Bevan has come to a summit.
Yep.
Matthew presented at a summit. Greg's presented at a summit. So we like to put out continuing education programming again in that professional slash like just becoming a professional level. This year's summits are going to be about digital permaculture design. Like,
Ooh,
how can you take like a little sketch that you make for a new client and turn it into something that you might put more of a professional polish on so you might be able to get gigs or work with clients, that sort of thing. And then later in the year is marketing permaculture, not just the PDC, but how do we grow the understanding, like culturally, of what permaculture is and how it can be applied for solutions across all sorts of cultural levels.
ooh, can I present at that one?
Yes, you're signed up now.
Nice.
Thank you for that.
Excellent.
And we
Excellent.
always have an annual design contest as well. So if you do
Mhm.
permaculture designs, whether it's just like crayons or colored pencils, it doesn't matter, or if it's a more professionally rendered design. At the end of the year, August to November, we always have a design contest with a few $1,000s. This year, we gave out $7,500 to help move that design from where it already is to the next level. All that we ask is that you're a PINA member and you take pictures of it or video of it so that we see that like cool transformation that you made, and then we can brag about it. So keep posted about those two things.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank you for that, Jesse.
you're welcome.
Thank you. And Matthew, welcome, Matthew. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Matthew Trumm is a permaculture and regenerative systems educator, designer, consultant, speaker, and licensed landscape contractor from Oroville, California. Through his organization, Treetop Permaculture, he leads projects in education, ecosystem restoration, and community resilience. He founded the Campfire Restoration Project, created the first U.S. ecosystem restoration camp, and developed the Co-op in a Box micro local food program. After losing his house in the 2020 North Complex fire, he launched the Treetop Eco Camp to research post-fire permaculture design. Welcome, 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 Matthew.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, thanks, PINA, for doing this. It is awesome to have so many different perspectives on this thing, permaculture. So I hope to get my little slice of it today. Thanks for everybody for coming wherever you're coming from. I see people coming from all over the place. So that's awesome. Mexico. Looks like we got
Cali.
Idaho.
Yep.
Got Michigan. We've got let's see, Arizona, and yeah, that's what I see so far.
Yeah.
Anyways, pretty cool. So I'll share my screen here.
So both Jesse and I are going to mute our video and audio. Turn this over to you. We will take questions at the end. If you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And yeah, enjoy. And both Jesse and I are here backing you up if you need us.
Thank you. Okay, well, so yeah, here's my QR code that goes to my info if you guys want to snapshot that for your phones. Um, yeah, I started practicing permaculture in 2011. I got my PDC, my certificate in 2015 from Jeff Lawton. And, I started this thing, Treetop Permaculture, actually before I got my PDC, which was really just me, selling products and things like that for my little food forest that I started, and also doing a little bit of teaching already, even before my PDC, just things that I learned that worked. At the time, I was living in the mountains, and Greg gave a little background. Something that's a new thing is this other organization that I just started. So I had been doing this under a sole proprietorship basically over the years, and then when I got my landscape contracting license about a year and a half ago now, I started a corporation called Treetop Industries. And then I decided this year to dissolve all my old sole proprietorship organizations, and I put it all under a nonprofit that I'm officially just launched. It's called Tending Terra. And our sole mission is to support, say all these brands that I started are still there. Treetop Permaculture, Treetop Eco Camp, the Co-op Box is a co-op CSA program that I started here locally. But I became a teacher at a local school, teaching a garden program 10 years ago now. Actually, in March, it will be 10 years. And it basically slowly evolved to be a permaculture program. And so I've been running a permaculture school garden program now for about 7 years, officially permaculture garden program, permaculture program there at the school. And so what I realize is that's the most powerful thing of anything that I do, because it is really easy to bring kids on board because they don't have preconceived ideas of the world, and they don't come with all these things you have to unlearn, and so and all these things that we're going to talk about really are intuitive things that are within us still in our DNA. It's just like we have to kind of unlock them again. It's the same things that all indigenous peoples of the earth are connected to. It's essentially, tapping back into that regenerative, natural way that we have been created through the patterns of the earth. So really excited about this new nonprofit that I started. People love to support kids. And so I'm able to do all the same work that I've always done, but all the profits now go into the youth programs as our primary thing. So if you're supporting Treetop Permaculture or the Treetop Eco Camp, or you're buying one of our food boxes, you're actually supporting the youth programs, which is really, it helps too. People want to do that. So this is my website, treetoppermaculture.org. Honestly, I don't really keep up too much with it, but if you want to get a consult, I do remote consultations. I do post my educational programs on here, and I have pictures of demonstration sites and things that we've done through here. And yeah, so that's my website there. But today we are to tackle this question: what is permaculture? Okay, so if I were to be like, really, okay, if you really want to know the definition of permaculture, there's a manual for it. This is the manual. It's the Permaculture Design Manual of Bill Mollison. When you get a certificate, permaculture design certificate, you have gone through the 12 modules that are in the Permaculture Design Manual, and we stick pretty strictly to this manual. Although we've added to it and we've sort of changed some of the definitions. It's kind of like today, I'm giving my own version of it, right? Well, these are the two fellows that helped make that happen. David Holgram and Bill Mollison. You can look them up. But David is from Australia. Bill is from Tasmania originally, and there's a big background there. I'm not going to get into that today, but they have their own definitions of permaculture. But it combines these two words, permanent and culture. We used to say agriculture, but agriculture really, I think is a very small version of what we actually do. We actually do, change culture. And when we say permanent, we don't mean that it stays the same. It means that it's stable. And probably one of the most stable things is to evolve and change as the system gives you feedback. David's got his own version of the definition of permaculture here: consciously designed landscapes which mimic the patterns and relationships found in nature while yielding abundance of food, fiber, energy for provision of local needs. Bill's definition: permaculture is designing sustainable human settlements, philosophy of the approach to land use which weaves together microclimate, annual and perennial plants, animal, soil, water management, and human needs, right, in an intricately connected, productive community. Well, I wrote my definition down a while back. It's a lot bigger than here, but I'm going to break it down. This is my definition. Permaculture is an ethical design system that is used to build stable life systems. Systems that can both simultaneously supply solutions for all the needs of humans while also benefiting the surrounding living systems. But you could take the life part out of it and say it's supplies solutions for systems and everything that's part of a system. We don't have to have the life involved in it. We'll get more into that. The aim is to not fight what is wrong in the world, but to create a better world in simple and passive ways from right where we are living our lives. Permaculture looks to mimic the patterns of nature in everything we do. Another word for that is biomimicry. It's more than being self-sufficient, but pursuing the understanding of how the earth and all its natural systems function and how we can mimic those systems on our lands as well as every part of our life to create stable, long-term productivity. It can be applied to anything from restoration, food production, designing homesteads and animal systems. Those are all kind of the things you would think of. But it also can be used for non-living systems like organizing a home or even making a business plan. A big concept in the theme of all of this is the definition of sustainable, or what we now use, because sustainable can mean like staying the same, actually. Regenerative is I think a better word for what this is. But what this is an energy order, okay? So a sustainable system or regenerative system produces more energy than it consumes, and it creates enough surplus to maintain and replace that system and its components in its lifetime. So it goes beyond this definition of sustainable. That's where I say that, yeah, the term regenerative. our goal in everything we do is to use the smallest amount of energy going in, or the appropriate and available amount of energy from the system, to yield the maximum amount of energy from the system coming out. It's about harnessing and rerouting natural energy flows in a system to be used the most efficiently. So pairing outputs, products from one element in the system that you might consider a waste, and reroute them as an input or a need for another element, therefore creating fewer input need requirements of the system that are usually imported from unsustainable sources like money, physical human energy, and things like that. We are aiming to create regenerative systems just like the ecosystems of nature, which we are part of. Okay. So it combines these things, right? It's a science. It's a design system, and I always say permaculture design. So we say this is the intro to permaculture design, because the design part is the key. So it's based on facts and research, and we talked about resources and optimum efficiency, right? It's also about sustainability, what we just talked about. It's about creating a system that will last for a long time, and it's filtered in the ethics. And and of course it provides, the idea of it encompassing all these things for our human needs, right? So I created this thing. I feel like this is the pillars of permaculture. It can change a little bit here, but these for me are like the big building blocks, the glue or the pillars. Okay. Ethics, principles, observation, and element analysis, sector analysis. We're going to talk about all of these here. Zone planning, all right, and mainframe design, and then the evolution of the system, right? Or so, and you could say entropy, energy is another way to say that. So the ethics, earth care, people care, and fair shares. This was like kind of the original. Now I've actually combined the first two, because I feel like separating ourselves from the earth, is actually a very Western mindset. So I just say there's two. There's care for the earth, which is all life systems, including our own. Make sure that all life systems continue and multiply, and see all life as intrinsic value, right? All is vital and necessary. We tend to kill a lot of things that are problems. We want to kill things. But in permaculture, we look at how do we add more life to balance the system out. And the number two ethic, in my opinion, there's only two, is future care. So it's like the Iroquois Confederacy in the U.S. is actually where we got our Constitution, like the ideas for a lot of our Constitution, but we left out this thing called the 7 Generations Clause, which means that every decision that is made, you look at 7 generations behind you, if they would approve, and 7 generations ahead, how it would affect them. Would it affect them in a positive way or a negative way? And we only move forward if it's in a positive way. So implies saving, sharing, donating, preserving, setting limits. That's the, kind of some of that stuff there from the original definition. Reducing consumption if necessary, returning both natural and man-made capital. To support preserving both social, economic, and environmental systems into the future, right? So these are like our 3 first filters we always have to go through. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't pass these 2 tests, we don't move forward. This is the first step, the ethics. We also have all these principles, right, which are just guiding, and there's more I'm sure that we've created over time, but there's some really good ones in here. I'm not going to get into this today, but observation is really huge. I'm going to point out obtain a yield. Okay. Every element in nature, all animals do this. Everything in nature is going and doing everything they do for their own needs, right? But they're living in a regenerative pattern. So what that means is that their waste is being used by something else. Everything that they do is they don't have the animals and stuff, they're not creating plastics and toxins and stuff like that, right? So they're naturally what they do by providing their own needs, they're actually creating a waste resource that another element takes up, and they're also utilizing waste resources from other elements. And it's important. This is a really important, in my opinion, one of the most important principles is that we make sure that we design in, meaning everything we do should gain something for us, because it's not sustainable that if we do not design that in. We are basically giving. And I see this in nonprofit organizations all the time as burnout, because everybody's just volunteering. And in the end, you have to design in something that was for yourself. And people are self-motivated, and that's just part of nature. Yeah, accepting feedback, patterns to detail, small, slow solutions. That's another big one for early on. I can't stress that enough. Doing little things. If you have an idea, oh, I think I should plant, these kind of berries or something here on this property. Um, just plant a few, okay, rather than 100 or 1,000 of them, and observe it for a year. And then you accept the feedback. Did it work or didn't? Well, if it didn't work, you didn't plant 1,000, berry plants, and now you're like stuck with this thing. So that's one of the concepts of that. So there's a few there. I highly encourage you guys to check these out. And it really comes into play more. Ethics and the principles, those are the two big filters. So these are like the second layer of filters that you run through, and you're always sort of looking back to these. This is like keeps me grounded as I go forward and do my work. And the next part I'm going to talk about is the observation pillar. Okay, we observe nature. One of the key factors in nature, these sort of foundational things, is succession, right? How does an ecosystem evolve, right? And so this is an example of a forest ecosystem evolving. There is steps to be made. So as we develop, land, let's say we want to create abundant food forest or whatever farm, we should think about how does nature do this, right? And so, we don't have to water the forest or fertilize the forest, right? It was done in a way that provided all that. And so we should also evolve the system to that level, in that way. Yeah, forests have layers, and they have that kind of structure. So we mimic that in the food forest, right? So food forest is classic permaculture, thing. 7 layers in a forest. There's a canopy, there's an understory, there's a shrub layer, herb layer, rhizome or root layer, there's a ground cover layer, and there's a vertical layer, so we would mimic that for productive reasons, but not everything is productive in the sense that it's always for us. It's productive in function and in yield. And you could say, yeah, the function is a yield. So some of this stuff could be a nitrogen fixer, something that's providing a nitrogen or a dynamic accumulator that provides nutrients or minerals or inputs for the other things around it. It could be insectiaries, it could be habitat, so many functions. We're trying to mimic functions. Now I'll go a little bit deeper into this as we think about this living web of a natural ecosystem. So I call this the mechanics of life, okay? And it's something that even the best, intentional people sometimes get wrong. It's a very Western mindset to think of nature as this thing that's out there that's kind of just doing its own thing. And here's two incredible, Westerners, okay, that were trying to do right in certain ways, Roosevelt and John Muir, right? They wanted to preserve nature. They had a lot of positive intentions, but they missed a critical step, which was that nature isn't just only there from God and nothing else, going on. It was actually being tended by many elements, okay, that they weren't really looking at. So let's go through some of that. So everywhere you stand right now, sit maybe or lay down, I don't know where you guys are doing. Everywhere you are was once in time a functioning, healthy ecosystem. So I like you to imagine that what it could have been like before it was changed, or colonized, in most cases, and degraded. Okay, so I'm going to talk about here where I'm at, which is in the Sierra Nevada foothills in California. We're about 3 hours from the coast into the continent, here, right in the foothills of Sierra Nevada. So this was what it was like where I'm at. Old growth trees, massive trees, windbreak, genetics, right? They survived. I mean, the root systems, the mycorrhizal relationships on these, insane. Can you even imagine, right, what they were doing? We had a Serengeti of grazers here in the Sacramento Valley and the foothills, millions of elk, mule deer, pronghorn antelope, all tightly packed by predator pressures, competing and eating vegetation and dropping manure and fertility everywhere they went. That kept all the overgrowth of trees and everything kept down. It fertilized all the trees around it. Incredible. We had buffalo not too long before that, came all the way down here to California. And only in ecological time, maybe 10,000 years ago, we had even the mastodons. These big boys, girls, you think of one poop of a mastodon was like dropping a wheelbarrow full of manure out in the forest. Think about the fire breaks that they created. And these guys were actually great. They were browsers, not just grazers. So they were actually eating the woody stuff in the forest. And all these predators, right? The golden grizzly bear, right? Rubbing against trees, scratching, inoculating trees with fungi, bringing salmon into the forest, right? And all these predators basically doing their job, helping support and spread nutrient, support the grazing populations to keep that tight packed situation. And the salmon running up the mountains, bringing critical ocean nutrients from the only thing really in our area, bringing ocean nutrients up into the forest. The birds spreading seed, spreading fertility all through. The birds and the bears would carry salmon up to 6 miles into the forest and it'd be spread out. And then obviously other animals would then spread it further. And my favorite, my spirit animal over here, the beaver, spreading, soaking, and sinking water. And lots and lots and lots of insects. We've lost, maybe up to 50% of our insect population. These are the micronutrient distributors. They would be up on the leaves. They were literally the composteers of the forest. And obviously the other animals would eat them. And their health was really based on these animals, these insects. And of course, all the little, other creatures and the microorganisms all playing a role, all doing their job as ecosystem function. Okay. And of course, let's not forget the native indigenous people of the lands. Here was the Maidu, lighting traditional good fire, seed selection, training trees, creating conditions for the system to thrive. As humans, we have this incredible ability to see imbalance, and we have the ability to shift balance in a system, right? So this is like us observing the patterns of nature. And we have a chapter on this in the permaculture design course. And these are all the tenders of the forest, and we're one of them. We are one of those tenders of the forest. So we know about a lot of these sexy things in permaculture that people think of as what we are, which is things like, swales and water harvesting systems, right? The food forest, right? Intensive planting, whatever, mushroom growing, aquaponics, all these different things, that are associated with us, natural building. But all of those are just information and techniques. And I want to encourage everybody as they get into permaculture not to focus on the information and the techniques, but the design. So it's like a wardrobe. This is the classic wardrobe analogy, okay? Those techniques that I just mentioned, whether it's biodynamics or French intensive planting or aquaponics or whatever it is, they're like a hanger in a wardrobe. Your land, your property, or your project that you're working on is always going to be a different design. It's going to be based on your lifestyle, your physical abilities, your land. And from that, then you select the techniques and the organization of those techniques and placement of those things, and you design your own wardrobe. Permaculture is the design of the wardrobe. We will use anything in the universe. If aliens landed tomorrow, I'd be picking their brain on things they do on their land, their world, and I would be seeing how I integrate that here into mine. So it has nothing to do with time or place. It's about, we take all information, all techniques, and we use it appropriately for the specific situation. And this is systems thinking. This is how we come up with a design. I'm a Jeff Lawton guy, so mainframe design, I can't stress it enough in a system. What I like to tell everybody is that if you get these three things correct, water systems, access systems, so water systems, water harvesting potentials, where your ponds, how you can move water in the landscape, access roads, pathways, etc. And those two are intricately linked, by the way. Okay, because you move water along roads, you connect systems with roads, you put pipes on roads and pathways, so it never gets disturbed by roots of trees and stuff like that. And structures, where to place the structures on the property. These are like the bone or the skeleton, if you will, of the design. If you get those right, you almost don't have to plant anything, and the system will naturally be abundant, whether it's like high productivity of food for you or if it's for the animals. You just do a few other things and then it becomes more productive for you. But I can tell you right now, you can get a lot wrong in the details if you get the mainframe design correct. And then we look at zones of energy, right? And this is a really big piece of permaculture design is energy order, right? We want the things that we use the most right next to our home and the people. One step out, things that you could use only weekly, maybe you only need to come to weekly. And as further you go out in the system, the less needs and frequency of your inputs it becomes. So we design things, and people often put their gardens way far out. So the first thing I do is try to shrink in. And whatever you think it is, cut it in half or in a fourth because people are really bad at this. I went from 12 acres and I was really spread out, and then I went to a 3rd-acre property, and like I had a zone 5 that was 100 feet away, because you can really shrink that inner zone stuff in. We also look at sector analysis is a big one. It's the energies that affect the site, right? Where these constants in the universe, right? The sun angles, right, are going to be constant. Where does the winter wind come from? The summer hot continental wind? Where is the frost settling? Where is there a good smell, a bad smell, noise, and so forth? And we choose 3 options: whether we stop that energy, right? In the case of, say, a bad smell, we want to block that energy, or do we want to bring that energy in? Do we want to enhance it, or encourage that energy, right? And say a cold wind, we might not want it near our house, but we might want to direct it towards an apple and pear orchard so that it creates the amount of hours of cold that it needs to be more productive, and so forth. Or we just neutral with it. We just don't do anything. And so one of the ways that we do this, and I got rid of my chicken. Oh my. Yeah, so we had the classic element analysis, there's a chicken. I don't know where the chicken went, but what the first step to doing these things is we say, what do we want on our site? And I created, it's the element analysis wish list. And you just write everything down: plants, animal structures that you'd ever want. And then you help organize those one by one. And this is just an exercise you can do. It becomes intuitive, where you connect the outputs, like the waste products from one element, to the inputs of another element. So you can decide, where do you place elements in the system? Oh, there she is. Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit of a, an image for you on that, right? This is the one classic, element we look at. Chickens, what do they need, right? So the idea is we want to design all the needs into the system, and we want to use all of the products from that element in the system. So we are often putting things next to. My classic one I did was a chicken coop in a greenhouse next to a compost pile under a mulberry next to a garden. And my morning flow was, I walked out of the back door with my compost scraps. I threw them into the compost, some of them into the compost pile, threw some of them into the chicken coop. I went and mucked out the chicken coop, threw it on top of the food scraps in my compost pile, got the eggs, grabbed some veggies and greens from the garden that was right there, and went into the house. The greenhouse, the springtime, the mulberry opened up and provided shade for the chickens, and the greenhouse dropped mulberries to the chickens, also dropped mulberries around the compost pile, and I had thousands of mulberry seedlings that would pop up there that I'd dig up, and so much more. And it was above the garden, so all the nutrient from the chickens went into the garden naturally, or I could muck it out, throw into the garden, etc. So these really fun connective things in these systems. Yeah, designs. So these are just some designs I had. Yeah, let me just, yeah, I think that's pretty much, that's pretty much it. So these uh these core principles, I'm gonna go back to real quick, my original slide here, that was about the pillars real quick, because I want to really, yeah, there we go. I want to reiterate this piece, right? So what you really need to get out of this presentation from me, where I differ from some permaculturists is that I try to stay away from the idea that permaculture can only be applied to living systems, because you can take these kind of biomimicry, pattern observations, and you can apply them into business models. And I've done that a lot with what I do, and many other things that aren't living systems. So stay away from the idea of techniques, and realize that it's more about design and the placement of techniques, what techniques will work. And guess what? You'll come up with a bunch of your own techniques in permaculture. And the rest is just over time. You're not going to learn this overnight. I took my PDC and had a huge breakthrough, even though I had been practicing what I thought was permaculture for 4 years. It took me still, and I had a huge breakthrough, but it took me several more years of practicing now with the design mindset, to actually start to see these things really connect. And it's such a fun journey. It's an incredible journey, and I encourage you to take that journey if you're not already on it. And now I'm happy to take your questions.
Nice. Thank you. Good job.
Yes, excellent, Matthew. Thank you.
I love how you threaded the ethics into two. Because when
Mm,
you shared that, it made so much sense. It's like it's a human generated thing to separate that.
Mhm.
But when you think, from a nature perspective, they are the same. Care for
yeah.
the earth, care for the people. Hello.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. I also like, and there was some thoughts in the chat about like, how would a business look, or even
right.
like inside of your home? Like, how could you design the inside of your home using permaculture? And I know, Matthew, you know that that's possible, but it's nice to take it away from the food forest or just like, oh, it's a farm or it's growing things. Oh, yeah, awesome.
So this is a web of my business model for my nonprofit.
Love
Okay,
it.
so this is an
Oh,
example
nice.
here. So, Treetop Permaculture. So the whole thing is education, demonstration, consultation, and quality standards. Is kind of what I do. And so we have the schools program. I have my educational piece, Treetop Permaculture, the consultation business and stuff. We have our eco camp, and we have our food box program. And now we have this, RIP program, the Regenerative Industry Pathway Program. It's a high school program where they get work experience.
Cool.
And I've been doing all this stuff separately in the past, but then I realized, oh my gosh, if I put the youth program as this core thing, and we use the schools as the hubs of these systems, so now the students run my box program. The all the farmers that I've been working with in the Co-op Box program now, um, can they provide food for the schools? So I've now connected the schools with that. We need a future industry, because, like, it's so hard to get people to come to courses and things like that these days, and I feel like we're having a fall off with some of our adults, and I realize, like, the only way we're going to have more success in the future is that we create more need for it. We create more education with the youth to see the need for it, right? And so the career development side was weaved into there, and now they can become a producer in the box program, or they can become a landscape contractor or a
Mm,
grower. And so we're kind of connecting all these things together, just like we would with an ecosystem. We're using that school as like sort of the web of all of it. We're creating a demonstration site at the school. It's just it's too much to say here now, but that's just a small example
Well, I
of
want
how
to,
we do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to jump in here. That was, so Symphony asked, I would love to see this in action in designing a workplace and what it looks like. And
Mhm.
that map that you just did, that blew me away.
Mhm.
That is what Symphony was asking for, at least one of the things that Symphony
Yeah.
was asking for.
Yep.
So good job. Thank you.
It's like an infection in a way, like, you can't turn it off, like once you have it. And
Right?
you want to connect everything together. There is a threshold too. You have to be careful of that too, though, at the same time, because you have to do things in flow energy, and not like overwhelm yourself with that either, because it can become like you can get really hyper focused. At least I can, really hyper
Yeah.
focused on it. But just realize anything you do that's a little bit better is way better than anything else out there, right? So that's like the key, is not to be a purist, just work towards that goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Symphony
Definitely.
says, great job, folks. Thank you. So I'm going to just throw it out there. What questions might you have? You can drop them in the webinar chat. Um, while we're having people think about that, you've got a fire mitigation course coming up, do you not?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I should, yeah, mention that. So, yeah, I've been here in Butte County in California. If most people know, we're known for our fires here in California. I've been through many fires here, Butte County. Over 52% of my county's landmass has been burned over the last 10 years.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I came into this without choice. I really didn't see myself in this sector. But one thing that you'll learn is that when you're in permaculture and stuff like that, when these kind of big disaster type events happen, you're in a much better position to respond, right? Because you're
Hmm.
resilient. You already know where to get resources. You know already how to heal land, and bring people back to center. That's kind of what we do. We're like the realest game in town. It's like kind of bringing people back to grounding. And so, I just happened to be in a position to help, and I started doing that. And I've been doing that for 7 years. And so I've connected with a lot of really incredible folks over that time. And this last year, I was approached by let me get out of here, Ecosystem Restoration Communities, which was, the brainchild of John Liu. And they were thinking to do a wildfire course, an online international course. And I was already working on something because I was kind of ready to like end this chapter in my life in a way, by putting out all the information that I learned and bringing in all the experts that I've been working together. So we have a 4-month course. It's an online course, and we're going to connect you to other on the ground stuff that's happening all over the world. And it starts April 6th. Let me just show you some of the lineup here that we've got here. John Liu, Brock Dolman of the Occidental Arts and Ecology Center, Jeff Lawton, Lee Klinger, Alan Booker, familiar face. Raleigh Latham is part of the Water Stories with Zach Weiss. Paul Wheaton is part of the course. Matt Powers, Miguel Elliott, Penny Livingston is part of the course. Eric Olson. Like, I mean, I got so many awesome folks as part of this course because they were all so excited to share for this. This is a huge problem. Wildfires have become more severe, more intense, and just really huge. It was not even on my radar 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And it became like, and we all know, we see it every summer in the Northern Hemisphere and, obviously in Southern Hemisphere, summers. And it's become a huge problem. Whole cities and towns getting eaten up by these mega fires. And so, what we're doing here is to tackle that question from a holistic perspective. There's a lot of information out there about fire safety and things like that, but I hadn't seen any courses for with that holistic perspective. Yeah, so let me just go down here. Yeah, we have 4 modules. Like, we go through the ecosystem understanding stuff, similar to some of the stuff that I talked about today, but in detail. um, the post-fire recovery stuff, restoring land and livelihoods, and then we go deep into design and holistic management, and then of course the action step. It's a really comprehensive curriculum. You get like 2 hours of curriculum per week. We have a bunch of Q&As. We have panelists. All these experts are going to be part of panelists. And if you want to learn more, we got 2 coming up webinars, one on the 19th of February, and that's more for our, actually both parts of the world. 9 a.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. European sort of time. And then Monday, February 23rd is more for this side of the world, US side, 6 p.m. Pacific time. So come and check it out. We made the price pretty darn reasonable. It's $4.95. There's over like 70 hours of material in the course. It's crazy.
Wow.
Like, price. So, and we even have a payment plan of $89 a month. Okay, so that's the habit. I put the link in the chat early on.
I added it too
Okay,
just
cool.
now.
All right. So, yeah, come and join us. It's going to be really fun. And we're talking about fire, but it's actually applicable for just generally, like, land health, land stewardship, holistic management, and even like flooding and stuff like that. We touch on a lot of that kind of stuff in the course, so don't feel like it's just for wildfire either. So,
Cool.
yeah,
Well, thank you very much for your time this evening.
yeah,
I guess it's this afternoon for you. It's this evening for us on the East Coast.
about 4 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks. Any final thoughts? Either of you?
Matthew, why should people take a PDC if they haven't?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so the permaculture design course takes you through a sequential process of design. And so there's the concepts and themes of design, which is really critical. There's the pattern understanding section. And then, those are sort of like the big pillars of the course. But then then they guide you through every single mainframe life system, of course, methods of design is like techniques, which goes really deep into techniques. it you think you might know or understand what this is, but I promise you, until you've taken a permaculture design course,
You
you
don't.
really don't have that, that framework. It's going to change your life. It is really the thing that, like, I searched for so long for, like, what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of the earth, world, and all these things. And I really feel like permaculture is that thing and again, it is an unraveling from a Western mindset for sure. I mean, I will have to say that, because it uses all technology and all available things that we have in our possession, and it helps sort of like, how do we unwind ourselves out of this system that we're in,
Yeah.
this chaotic thing that we're dealing with, and bring us back to grounding. Takes all that kind of indigenous intuition, and then brings it back to where we are currently, in our modern time. So, like, it's not just indigenous type thinking, it's applying that in real time in our modern society, moving forward. So I think that's yeah, it's worth it. It's really
Nice.
worth it. Go take
Love
it.
it. Yep.
Nice.
Agreed.
Thank you for that. And one of the things that I suggest is if you're interested in looking into doing a permaculture design course, first of all, Permaculture Institute of North America has a list, right,
Yep.
Jesse, of offering them. I'm
Yep.
a big proponent of doing a PDC, permaculture design course in person. I think there's a level of community that builds. So if you can do one in person in your bioregion, like the one that we do in Phoenix, Arizona, is a drylands permaculture design course. That wouldn't be so valuable in Asheville, North Carolina,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
So do one in person if you can. The easiest thing to do is to go to a browser window and type in the name of the biggest city near you and permaculture design course and see what comes up.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I found the one in Detroit that I took many years ago. So it was like, oh, that's right in my neighborhood. All right,
Right?
cool. And I still work with and know people that I met in that course, 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Awesome, Matthew. This has been great, man. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Greg.
Everybody,
Oh yeah. Where's our
please, I want to say goodbye.
Bye, Chorizo.
Goodbye, everybody.
woohoo!
Peace, brother.
Thank you for supporting
you.
the earth. Take
Right?
a permaculture course.
So when I end this, we're all going to go away. So thank you for the great work, Jesse. Thank you, Matthew, and our
Yes.
buddy there, the puppet.
Thanks, Chorizo. Thanks, Greg.
So, yep.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody, for being here. We'll see you at the next one.
Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Frizo and Matthew. Bye.
Bye bye.